Welcome to another edition of the Mailbag from the workshop this time, and we've got a fair few comments to get through. But before we get through those today, normal parish notices. So, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, why not? Hit the subscribe icon. If you want to be notified when this sort of content or other content hits the channel, that's the bell icon is the one you should be hitting. If you like the content of this video or any other video you watch on the channel, give it a thumbs up. It really helps. Become a member of the TMTG community. The address is down there, as are the Instagram and Facebook pages, or Instagram and Facebook pages, whichever way around it is. Go over there. You'll see all the shenanigans of the channel are notified on those platforms. But now back to the video. This one comes from Agents of Rush, like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which I am watching the latest series, and it is very good. In response to find the firmware version on your Behringer RD8. And he writes, thanks for this, just checked and I'm up to date, but I get no sound from the headphone jack. Also, if I have closed the hi-hat coming from the main mono, I'm getting volume dips that now and then. Have you come across anything like this? And I'm not experiencing the same thing as you are. So I had tremendous issues at one point with kicks not being punchy. And then what I realised, it turned out to be a setup issue relating to filtering, which was a bit painful actually, but it took a long while for me to actually work out what was going on, because I thought it was a problem with the unit, and it wasn't a problem with the unit. I've only a couple of times seen one tone taking precedence over another in the main out, but being fine in individual outs. You know, on the RD8 you've got the individual outs. Well, if you plug something into the individual outs, you get the tone all the time, and it's constant. But on the main out, a couple of times I've seen that one tone will take precedence over another. So I have seen that, and I'm not sure whether it's an issue with the software mixer inside the machine or something else. But what I would say is that new firmware has just arrived. It's probably worth an upgrade. So I haven't done that on my Behringer at the moment. I keep meaning to get round to it, and I haven't quite got there yet. So I haven't stopped dancing yet, but I will get there eventually. This one comes from Chris Liddard in response to Kordbot updating the firmware 2019, in fact January 2019. And Chris writes, right now the Launchpad Pro shows that the hardware of this kind should be capable of. There are a lot of people who give their right arm for a device like this with open API. Imagine having the features like a sequencer created by like-minded Kordbot users. And Chris, what I would say is, if you've got ideas, you know, contact Brad at Isla Instruments, Facebook, Instagram, or actually through the website, and give him your ideas. Now, more than once, Brad has commented that he overspec'd the firmware, this unit. It was very highly spec'd. However, the firmware in the old guys, and the guy who wrote the firmware, or the guys who wrote the firmware in the first set of firmware, Brad was seeing far too much resources being consumed by the firmware that stopped things like the promised sequencer materializing. And therein lies the problem with this unit. Embedded code development is an art. You need to make the unit do lots of things with a given set of operational parameters. It's not like a computer where you can shove more RAM into it. You know, what you've got is what you've got. So I know it's an art form. I've got a friend who used to work with and mentors people through the Google embedded code program. And he has always said that embedded work requires you to really think about the efficiency of the instruction set. You can't just write this stuff. It's not like a computer. So, you know, you get people who program in, you know, HTML and whatever, and the programming language is quite forgiving in terms of allowing you to do things in a very inefficient way, because you've got quite a lot of overhead on the machine. Embedded programming doesn't allow you to do that. Embedded programming is one of these things that is a real art form, and I've seen developers who I've worked with in the past who've tried to do embedded programming and failed miserably because they are not up to it. It is a very, very specialized task, and as a few people can really do it well. But you know what? If it was left to this particular friend of mine, he probably would have hacked this platform by now. He would have worked out how to upload a different instruction set to it, and he would have the Kordbot doing all kinds of weird and funky things. And in fact, I don't know whether he's got one or he hasn't got one, but if he did, I'm sure that's what would happen. So let's wait for the next official version of the firmware to drop. Next one comes from Monstata Munch. Again, setting up the Roland MX1 for your environment, 2016 January 2016 video I did, and he writes, or she writes, I'm not sure. I have an AKAI Force. I'm wondering whether I can output the AKAI Force to an MX1 and route the different tracks from within the Force to separate channels in the MX1. Can this be done? Short answer: no. I've got to basically say it's not a configuration that is supported by the MX1. The MX1 is really a Roland device. It supports Roland devices. Some other devices kind of work with it, but not really by design. At best, you might be able to get the AKAI to plug into the USB and route the multiple channels to your computer, but I doubt this is going to work. I think basically Roland have just really written the firmware on the MX1 to support the ARIA boutique devices. I mean, bearing in mind at the moment the MX1 doesn't support the MC range, so it's kind of missing. And I think the problem with the MX1 is, I've said it before, it doesn't really fit one environment well. It's better at live performances than it is at recording performances, and to be honest, your best bet with the Force is to plug it directly into your computer and record stuff that way.